Nicholas Eldred. I'm an experienced General Counsel and Company Secretary. I've been General Counsel of O2, the BBC and Christie's. These days I run my own legal consultancy.
And I'm Atiq Ahmed. I'm the Associate General Counsel at Trade IX. We're a blockchain-enabled trade finance company. My previous background within the in-house insurance sector.
My name's Ellie Knott and I'm a paralegal at ASOS in the Intellectual Property and Brand Protection team. We're here to make a video today to look at what GCs look for when they are hiring a junior lawyer in-house. So Nicholas, what do you look for as a main asset for a junior in-house lawyer?
In a word, attitude. But before I discuss what I mean by attitude, I want to say something else as well, just before that. Every lawyer that you take on has to be good at the law. So you've got to satisfy yourself that they've got the necessary legal skills and background and training and all of that. But let's not focus on that. Let's focus on attitude. What do I mean by attitude? Combination of different things, really. You're looking for a person to know quite a bit about your organisation and want to contribute to its success. So being part of that, it's not just any employer, they want to come and work for you. That's the first thing. Secondly, when you're assessing candidates, you want to see whether they are capable of operating at the level that you want them to. So they are comfortable in their own skin, they're able to contribute, they're able to work independently. Yes, with supervision as required, but they can come in and start doing the work that you want them to do. But also, they are good team players as well. So what you don't want is little sort of islands of independence in your team where people don't work together. I'm very strong on teamwork and I like to see people work together. So I always look out for pointers that people are happy to work alone, but also happy to work in collaboration with groups. Lastly, I'm looking for good judgement. What I mean there is people applying the skills they've got and the background and experience and helping their colleagues in the business come to sound decisions. It's decisions that work in the short term but also are right for the business. That sort of thing. So combination of those things I'd sort of put under the banner of attitude.
It's definitely second what Nicholas says there on attitude. It's one of the core things that you'll need to be successful in-house as a junior lawyer. One of the key attributes I look for just generally is just in-house lawyers having a growth mindset. That's particularly at the junior in-house level. And by that what I mean is, can somebody come into an organisation, adapt to the organisation, be versatile to what the organisation is, and learn to grow? And generally, if you have that kind of mindset, you generally tend to have somebody who has some sort of independence of thought and has a creativity you can certainly bring to an in-house legal team. So people who are kind of more growth mindseted than fixed mindset individuals.
How can you tell from someone in an interview situation if they do have the ability to grow?
Truthful answer is you can't always tell. I mean, you've got a certain amount of time, and in certain ways, an interview is a bit of a performance. Sometimes people come in and they present an image of themselves and an approach. So I think a good interviewer tries to unpack some of that and to ask questions which will whose answers may well be revealing. So that standard question of where do you want to be in 6 months' time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time, whatever, if it's asked properly, it's designed to see whether the person broadly wants to do the same job they're doing in 6 months or 2 years, or actually whether they've got aspirations to do other things. And if you can test and probe that, you can see whether somebody has got possibly the capability, the capacity, the energy, the approach, the desire, all those things to actually want to grow into a role. But if they come back and say, well, I'm just concentrating on this job and I don't know where I'm going to be in 6 months' time or 2 years' time, that doesn't necessarily mean that they haven't got those sorts of attributes, but you can't always tell, and it's not necessarily a good sort of indicator.
I always like honest answers when it comes to the 6 months or the five-year question, because the panned answer would be I see myself at this organisation being very successful, and sometimes it's more of a rounded answer. Somebody could see themselves in a slightly different role. So it depends on what level somebody's coming in at and where they see them. What's their realistic 3-5 year ambition? So you're expecting, or I expect from that answer, is something that's kind of honest, personable, and you can relate to.
Honesty in interview, I think, is really important for candidates. If mistakes are made, and if there are things in someone's career that haven't gone brilliantly well or anything like that, if an interviewer picks up on those and asks questions, the answers can be very revealing, because you want people who you can trust implicitly, who the business can trust will go out and be part of your team representing the company either internally or externally. So for me, people who are honest with you, I think is really important. And actually, you don't have to present as the ideal perfect candidate, because very few people I've met are the ideal perfect candidate, but you have to present honestly, because I think that honesty, integrity and all of that stuff is really, really important to have when you join the team.
I always say something when it comes to interviews, that you may have had negative experiences, but there are always things that you can turn into positive-minded things that have grown you as an individual, and you can always portray that at an interview to another organisation. So there's always a way that you can come across that you're always kind of positively minded in the responses you give, and honesty is really a key focus and a key part of that answer.
Do you find that you prefer to interview someone CV blind, or do you prefer to have had a good look at their work history, their academics, before they come into the room?
CV blind kind of touches into this point of unconscious bias, in just looking at the perception of the CV, how it's drafted, who the person is, the name the person has, whether that denotes a certain culture, an attribute or whatever. It's important to kind of take your assumptions out as to what you think the individual is from the equation, just from the off. So if you are looking at a CV and it's not CV blind, just take the assumption out of the equation. Typically what I look for when I see a CV is a decent educational history is fine, and then a story that's kind of told through the CV that's then told at interview, so that everything kind of makes sense. You do test into career gaps and you ask questions, and it's fine. Somebody's gone travelling for 6 months, no issue. But just so everything kind of makes sense to why somebody's making this particular move at this particular time. So I look for the narrative of the CV, and if the story makes sense to me as to why the person is applying for this role, then there's no issue from that front, and everything else is then based on the competencies relayed during the interview as to making the hiring decision.
I completely agree with that. You often hear people saying, let's hire someone like us. Let's hire that, and this person will fit right in, and this person will be this, and this person will be that, and so on. Actually, I think that's a mistake. What you're looking for is competence. All those things I mentioned earlier you're looking for, and they can come quite naturally from lots and lots of different backgrounds, and people with different educational experiences, and people from lots of different walks of life.
It's this question of balance in your team, and that's where you look at things like the diversity and the makeup of your team. Where you don't want is the position exactly as to what Nicholas is saying, which is the same type of person doing the same type of thing in the same way. It's easy to hire that person, and they can come into your business and work to a degree. But to create a fully functioning, really kind of integrated and high-performing team, often you'll see diverse people, you'll see people from different backgrounds, you'll see different mindsets within those teams and ways to approach situations in slightly different ways. And you're all harmonised around that business objective. So whenever I talk about team culture, I never mean that in a way that it means that everyone's got to be the same type. Yes. Everyone's got to understand what the business does, but they can bring themselves and their personality to their role.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you find you try to hire a balance of introverts and extroverts across your team? Because I think sometimes it's quite a common perception that people think in an interview process an extrovert would typically be better. They're more confident, they may have better examples that they can bring out and express.
There is that perception that if you're an extrovert, because you're a lawyer, because you're, when you're in private practice, you're typically client-facing, in-house, you're directly kind of liaising with the business, that you almost need to be an extrovert because those are the attributes that people expect from you. Whereas, actually, being an introvert and being the kind of person who takes the time to think and consider certain issues, you bring a different skill set to the plate. So I never kind of look at people as to say, well, they're extroverted and that's why I'm hiring them in, or they're introverted and that's why I can't hire them in. I look at the team and the makeup of the team that I have at the moment, and like I just said about balance, having that harmonious balance between individuals and types of people, the same concept applies to having a balance of extroverts and introverts that can feed off each other and relate to each other in that team environment to form a cohesive whole. So for me personally, if I have an overbalance of extroverts, then I might specifically target an introvert and vice versa. But for me, it's all about understanding what your team makeup is and forming the balance of your team to fit.
Completely agree. If you've got a team that has different personality types and different approaches and different all kinds of things, that actually tends to get you to better quality decisions. Not everyone shouting at each other in the room, fighting for airtime. And you know, if you're the GC, you have to take care to get opinions and thoughts and ideas from people who haven't got the sharpest elbows in the room and who are absolutely you sense have got a valuable contribution to make. And that's part of you chairing your own team effectively to get the best out of everybody, not the person who shouts the loudest.
So to wrap this up, I'm wondering, do either of you have a signature question that you will pop into any interview?
Actually, I had one when I was at the BBC, and apologies to anyone watching this who remembers it. My first question was always, what are you enjoying on the BBC at the moment? Actually, that's a seductively difficult question to ask because people thought, what's Nicholas mean? Does he mean highbrow stuff? Does he mean I can demonstrate a range of things? And then they would panic and start talking about things they'd seen on ITV or Sky or other things like that. The answer, but it was a really straightforward question. What are you enjoying? That was all. Because I just wanted to see if there was an engagement with what the BBC was putting out.
I think, you know, it's not so much a fun question, but I asked two words, which is why trade IX to an interviewee. And that's because obviously as a startup company, people need to research the company and know what the company is. And sometimes, you know, you really catch people out because they'll think of the company in a particular kind of way and it isn't what the company is. So you know whether somebody's researched into what they're talking about or whether they haven't.
Thank you for watching today, guys. I am Ellie Knott, and this has been a quick video on what GCs look for when hiring a junior in-house lawyer. Special thanks to
Nicholas
and Atik.
Thanks for watching.